You've been searching for a podcast that can motivate you, inspire you, and teach you about business and life all at the same time. Well, we've got you covered. This is Beyond the Blueprint with Matt. Whether you're seeking to unlock the secrets of real estate success or seeking guidance in the world of marketing and coaching, you're in the right place, helping to educate and motivate you through real-life experiences with work and life. We'll uncover stories like how a family's homeowning dream turned into their living truth, or how a struggling rookie transformed into a top realtor. You'll find there's always a way forward, pushing the boundaries of what's possible. This is Beyond the Blueprint with Matt. And now your host, Matt Sochi.
All right, welcome to Beyond the Blueprint. My name is Matt Sochi. I'm your host today, and I have a good friend with me today, Sal Ippolito. How are you, buddy?
Hey, Matt, how's it going? Thanks for having me, man.
Besides the weather, you brought Seattle with you.
Yes, I brought the Pacific Northwest with us, yeah.
Today, we have an exciting episode. We are actually going to have a conversation with Sal here, who I've known for the last couple of years. I think we met through a Facebook group.
Yeah, pretty much. I think I met Melissa first, and then she had introduced me to you, and then off and running.
Awesome. Yeah, I remember then. Last year, we actually got to meet, and we got to go to the DeSantis rally, which was a lot of fun, and we got to go to an Everblades game.
Yeah, the Blades game was a blast.
Can't beat that, right?
Can never go wrong going to an Everblades ECHL hockey game.
That's it. So Sal has a very, very extensive background in hockey, and just really excited to hear about your story and just really, what you're doing out there, which I think is a really awesome thing, especially with the kids. And I can relate to that as my son is into roller hockey here in Naples, Florida. So excited to hear about that. So this episode is sponsored by Emerald City Floorball. All right. So very excited. That's one of Sal's companies up in the PNW area, what is PNW?
PNW just stands for Pacific Northwest.
All right. Is that just Washington, or is that...
No, that really encompasses all of Washington, Oregon, and really parts of like Idaho and Montana. So mostly identified with Washington and Oregon, though.
Okay. I think in my head sometimes when I see PNW, I'm like Seattle.
Yeah. Well, when somebody says PNW, the first thing that people think of is Seattle, but the PNW encompasses that whole region of the country.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to have you here, and thank you for taking the time out of your day before you leave to come onto the show. So, Sal, tell us a little bit about your story, a little bit about yourself, and how you kind of got started with things, and maybe where you grew up, and et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, so, I grew up on Long Island, New York, and for my Long Island people, on Long Island, New York, not in Long Island. So, but I grew up on Long Island, New York, and I became a hockey fan at a very early age. I was fortunate enough to be a New York Islander fan, and for people who don't know the New York Islanders, they had won 4 Stanley Cups in the early 1980s, and I basically became a hockey fan from that point on, really up until this very day.
What age were you when you kind of gravitated towards hockey and said, this is my sport, I love this sport?
Once they actually won the Stanley Cup, which was, like I said, was really back in 1980, okay. I started really becoming a huge hockey fan and loved the game and started playing in the street and got more involved in just being a part of the sport, yeah.
I think, I'm from Connecticut, and a lot of people know that. I still remember going back to my youth. We had a place called Ram's Pasture, and every year they still do the Christmas sliding with the tree. When we were up there for my brother's wedding, we actually got to catch a glimpse of it. And they had a pond there, and that's where we used to actually play hockey. And it was a lot of fun as kids, everyone just getting out there. And it's a lot different, obviously, in the world that we live in today, where technology, unfortunately, has taken over life. So being in the sports and stuff like that, I think that's really awesome. So Long Island. So how long did you live there for?
Basically from birth until I was about 30 years old.
Okay. And then what happened?
I actually moved to South Florida. I always had a passion for hockey, and I wanted to work in the business. So I moved in 1999, like late 1999, and I went to broadcasting school in Fort Lauderdale. Okay. And I wanted to get into the broadcasting business and as a hockey announcer, if you will. So ironically, moved out in 1999, went to the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, ironically.
Does that something to do with ESPN? Only because I know ESPN is out of Connecticut.
No, actually, this place was called the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. They had locations in Connecticut, New York, Florida at the time. So I don't know if they're still in business or not, but I'm pretty sure they are. But yeah, I went to the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, and I wanted to get into the business. So that's how I wound up in Florida.
Okay. Did you go to college or anything?
I did not. Okay. No. I just went to some community college on Long Island. I wasn't really positively sure what I really wanted to do. I just knew that I loved hockey, and that was ingrained in me, like I said, since I was 8 or 9 years old.
I think a lot of the kids, at least these days, and mine own too, is they don't know what they want to do, and so it sounds like you took that passion of hockey and you wanted to bring it to the next level, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. There's a lot of kids, 15, 20, 25 that don't know what they want to do because there's so many options out there, especially today. There's more options than ever. But I always knew hockey was a part of my life. And so, ironically, I had applied for jobs after I went to broadcasting school. Didn't get any of them. And then the funniest thing happened. Funny story. I'm working at the Home Depot in Coral Springs, Florida. And I'm in the flooring department. And a guy comes in, and I recognize him. He's the assistant coach at that time of the Florida Panthers.
All right.
Talk to his wife and go, I played a little coy there. And I'm like, your husband looks awfully familiar. And she's like, yeah, he's the hockey coach. And then she introduced me to him. His name was George Kingston at the time. He was the first head coach of the San Jose Sharks of the NHL back in the early 90s. So she introduced me to George, and we connected, and I told him what I was doing. And I'm like, could you connect me with some people with the team? And lo and behold, he did. And about 6 months later, I got an internship with the team, and that's how I got my first foot in the door.
Wow. Awesome. For the Florida Panthers out of all of them, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've been to one game, great stadium, and I don't know if it was different back then or the same, but it was awesome. And I remember taking Jace, I believe it was for his Christmas present. And we stayed at the hotel, I guess, and I don't go to malls or anything like that, but by the mall.
Sawgrass, yep.
Right.
Across the street, yep.
Yep. So we were there, and I had no clue, even though I played it off like I did, that the Tampa Bay Lightning was staying there. And I guess that's where the away teams stay, at that hotel. So we get there, and there's all these stanchions. My brain triggers and goes, there's the Lightning's here. So we go up to the room, walk around the property a little bit, and all of a sudden, Stamco comes out and Jace is balling. And I didn't really recognize them. I'm not a huge hockey fan. I love the sport. I don't know as much, players and stuff like that. And he starts crying, and I'm like, "What's wrong, man?" He goes, "That's Point, and that's coaching." And the buses started coming up, and that was such a cool moment. And then we got to go to the stadium, and man, what a great place! You go out to before you get in, there's a lot of vendors out there, and great stadium. I loved it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful stadium, and one of the things I like about that arena in particular, it's really easy to get in and out of. Oh yeah, it's on the edge of the Sawgrass Mill, so if there's 20,000 people there, you're pretty much in. Parking's easy. Getting out of that place is easy. But back to Jace real quick. I was Jace 30 years ago, so I used to be blown away when I lived on Long Island. The Nassau Coliseum here, and then right across the parking lot was the hotel where the players stayed. And me and my friends used to go there and track the players down, and I would do the same thing for Jaromir Jagr. Oh my God, this is Jaromir Jagr, Brett Hull, Ray Bourque.
Wayne Gretzky.
Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky was one of the very few you can ever get your hands on because he was so popular. They snuck him out the back door. So him and Mario Lemieux, the two greatest players that ever lived, they would sneak out of the back door. So you didn't really get access to them, but you basically got access to every other hockey superstar on the planet at that time. And so I was Jace 30 years ago, and I would just be so giddy and try to get autographs and what have you not. And so it's so I can definitely relate to that childhood where kids see a hockey player today and they're just blown away and just overwhelmed.
And I think they're way cooler than football players. The hockey players are pretty cool, and you can always tell because they have no teeth. Some of them are missing them. But the hockey players, you know, they were like, hey, waving, shaking hands. We didn't have anything to sign, but just really good people, which sometimes people might not expect because how rough and physical the sport is, but just great people. So you went there. So what was how long were you there for, and what did you end up doing?
I actually was there from, 2002 to 2013. I started off as an intern. And then I had applied for jobs within the team that I kept getting passed over. But then one year I was simultaneously asked to do 2 different jobs. So I was offered a job with the NHL as an off-ice official. And then Fox Sports Florida wanted to hire me as a statistician. So my job was to be up in the press box, watch the game, and give not only the broadcasters, but the production trucks downstairs real life stats as they were happening. So I had a headset on just like I do now.
Wow.
I was talking to the production truck. My the talent was basically right to my right, and I would pass over flashcards or Post-it notes with real life stats as they were happening, and then they would basically take that stat and put the graphic on the television for the viewing audience.
Wow, how cool is that?
One of the best jobs I've ever had.
And then you got to meet all the people and go to all the games, right?
Not only that, but I got to work for the visiting teams about 85% of the time. So I got to meet so many cool teams and production crews and broadcasters. So I made relationships with quite a few people I still have a little bit of contact with to this very day, like Boston and Washington, D.C., the New Jersey Devils, the Islanders. And so it was a lot of fun working for all the different teams because you just got the perspective of the different broadcasters and what have you not.
I'll say the Devils fans, they're wild. Yeah. My roommate, he diehard, Brian Croak. He lives up in Buffalo now, but that was my first playoff game, and I think they were playing the Rangers, and that stadium is just wild. And I think that was a tipping point for me. So living in Danbury, I think we had the AAA team, the Mad Hatters, I think they were called. Mm-hmm. And because we could walk there literally from our house, and that was a really good experience. But then going to an NHL game, man, it blows your mind just how different and the energy in there is. So that's cool that you got to experience all those things.
Yeah, especially when the Rangers and Devils get together or the Rangers and Islanders get together. There's quite the rivalry between the fans and the teams itself. So yeah, it's pretty intense. And then, as you might know, a playoff game is just a completely different atmosphere. No matter who's in the playoffs, you can be in Florida, and they could be playing New Jersey, and there's 20,000 people, and the atmosphere is 10 times different than a regular season game. So, and I had the honor of doing some playoff games working for the New Jersey Devils when they played the Panthers way back in 2013, and it's a different animal and so much fun.
Oh yeah. I wish there were more people that got involved in hockey. I think the biggest thing is that it's so fast that they can't focus where the puck is. I'm like, where's the ball? Where's the puck? Where's the puck? Where's the puck? But once you get the concept of everything and how it works, I mean, it makes more sense. Just like, I'm sure during the Super Bowl, there were a lot of people out there like, what's a first down? You know what I mean? But once you understand it and the speed of the game, I mean, it's just incredible. All the things that go on with it. So now you're in Seattle.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about what got you from South Florida, doing stuff with the Panthers, and then the career with that, and then going to Seattle.
Well, I always had a fascination with Seattle, only because my uncle moved there from Brooklyn to the greater Seattle area back in like the early 1970s. So that's my mom's brother. So, while everybody else was living in New York or Florida, doing a traditional thing, my uncle was kind of like the oddball, if you will, and he was living in Seattle. So I always had an interest in the Pacific Northwest. And then basically what happened was in 1999, I met Wendy, who is my spouse, met her online, funny thing, on AOL of all places. way before, you had any dating apps, way before Match.com and what have you not. I always kick myself in the butt, if you will. Like, man, we should have started one of those dating apps and we'd have a house in every corner of the country. But met her online, and she was living in Seattle with her brother. And so we just got to talking, and then she came out to meet me, and then I went out to meet her. Lived in Seattle for about a year in 1999, and then dragged her butt across the country back to Florida. And then in 2013, we made the plunge and went back to the Pacific Northwest.
So let's just keep in mind, that's a lot of miles, Sal.
Yeah, I don't do
what is it, about 6,000 miles?
It's about like 3,700. Yeah, man, I don't do things easy. This flight alone is, 5.5 hours one way, 6.5 back, and I've made 10 trips back and forth between Seattle and Florida the last the last 4 or 5 years alone, because my family's here and what have you. So,
all right, awesome. I mean, so that's the story, and now you're here back in Florida.
Yeah, again, I have a lot of friends here. You're my friend. My mom and dad are still here. Spread out across different places of the state. A lot of friends and connections and contacts and what have you not. So, I come back 2 to 3 times a year. So I get on a plane and visit you guys.
There you go. At least you get to spend some time, and you usually come at the good times. I mean, today's kind of a Seattle day, but it's okay. So tell us a little bit about your business with the floorball.
Yeah, so living out in Seattle, I had always known at the time, even though it wasn't official, that they were going to get a professional hockey team, which in 2018 they were granted the Seattle Kraken, which is the 32nd NHL franchise. And if you ever have an opportunity to get out to Seattle, Washington, go to a Seattle Kraken game. The atmosphere is amazing. The arena is freaking amazing. They do everything right. But I knew they were getting a team, and there wasn't really any hockey out there. They had a hardcore base of fans, but there was nobody really doing any programs for kids, especially off the ice. It's a lot different on the East Coast. You got tens of thousands of kids playing ball hockey out there, and there's rinks all over the place, but it was foreign in the Pacific Northwest. So
what's ball hockey? So just to explain to listeners, like what's ball hockey versus floor hockey?
Sure. Ball hockey is basically ice hockey without the skates, without the ice, and without the heavy equipment, and without the body checking. So it's a very fast and competitive sport. We play in a full rink just like you do in ice hockey. Very fast, very physical, very talented, but it's basically ice hockey without the skates and without the ice.
And keep in mind, like, these rinks, I mean, it's almost like a football field. Not quite as big, but I mean, it's big. Like, our son, the first time we took him when he got into roller hockey, I was like, are they going to cut the rink in half? I was like, man, that's a lot of skating. They're going to peter out, and they're not doing subs like, every 30 seconds. They're out there for a couple minutes at a time, and they're gassed out. So running, I could only imagine, running, that's all stamina and muscle at that point. You're not gliding or anything like that.
No, it's not like ice hockey. You can't get away with a crappy shift in ball hockey. If you're not running, your coach knows it. If you're not running, your teammates know it, and you're going to hear it when you get back to the bench. So it is definitely a different animal, and you're right about that rink in Naples. It's a big rink.
Yeah.
Regulation size for ball hockey is a little shorter than that, but it's still a lot of running, and it's a grind. But it's a fun grind.
So you started your Emerald City when?
So I started Emerald City Floorball in 2019.
Okay.
Ironically, 3 months before the pandemic. I started doing some drop-in classes, and I was reaching out to community pages, just trying to introduce the sports to boys and girls of any age or background. Didn't really matter. And I was getting about 35 kids an event, and I was like, wow, this was a green light that I might be onto something. And then the pandemic hit, and that kind of...
Well, in the PNW area,
And we won't get too much into it, but everybody handled the pandemic differently, and the PNW was extremely different, and I'll leave it at that because we all have different opinions on how everybody does things. But that did shut me down for a good 2 years.
Okay.
It really did. And it was a really frustrating time. But I kept going and doing an occasional event here or there to anybody that would allow me to do it. We had to wear masks, of course, for 2 years.
While playing hockey, yeah.
Yeah, while playing hockey. It was a little rough.
What's the name? Like, tell us about the name Emerald City. What does that mean?
Well, I wanted it to encompass the entire Pacific Northwest. So
Okay.
Seattle is known as the Emerald City. So that's where I got the word emerald from. And then I just called it Emerald City Floorball. Had people ask me, why do you call it Seattle City Floorball? And I'm like, well, that doesn't encompass an entire area. And I wanted people to... I just wanted to be covering a more broad area in the minds of people and not just have people think it was just in Seattle.
Right. So how'd you come up with like the whole idea? Like, what was that moment where you're like, this could be something, big, to help the youth and the kids and, all those things?
Well, I have a really good friend back in New Jersey. His name is Anthony San Rocco. He's in his early 30s, and he started a ball hockey league about 4 years ago for adults called the National Ball Hockey League. And 4 years later, you have 180 teams around the United States. They have sponsors. It's in tie with USA Ball Hockey. The finals actually get broadcasted on NHL Network. So I actually came out of retirement back in 2020 to play ball hockey for the first time in over 20 years.
Wow.
And so I played on a team in Seattle called the Seattle Cold Snacks, and we had a division in the Pacific Northwest. So we were competing against other teams in our area and a few teams in Portland.
Because you travel. I mean, there's sometimes you're in, this seems like the Northeast.
So what happens?
Or taking a ferry somewhere.
Well, so Seattle doesn't have many rinks or really any rinks. The only rink what we have in the greater Seattle area is on an island called Bainbridge Island, which is beautiful. But you got to take the ferry over there. So you got to drive to Seattle in the morning, get up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, get to the ferry at like 6, jump on the 6:15, 6:20 ferry, and then get out to the island. And that's where we would play most of our games. So the little travel in there, and then we play a whole block of games in Portland. So we would have to do weekend trips and play a bunch of games in Portland, sometimes 3 or 4 in the weekend. And then when you win your division, you have the right to go to Philadelphia to play in the Nationals. So that's why you've seen me in Philadelphia each of the last 3 Septembers playing in the National Ball Hockey Championships since we had won a division.
Okay, awesome. Why do you think the area doesn't have more rinks? And I'm almost curious for here as well, is why is there not more, you see 400 baseball fields and or softball fields, which are not necessary. Pickleball, they need to definitely add more of that here because it seems like that's a sport. But it's like, I always think like Jace wanted to play ice hockey and it's all the way in Fort Myers. And yeah, that's not far. But if you're dealing with traffic at 4 o'clock, actually, we just came home from Blue Ridge. It was backed up from Immokalee Road to Hertz Arena at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Like I'd be like, it's impossible, right? So why do you think some of these towns or cities or states, why do you think it's not a bigger thing?
I just think the concept hasn't reached enough people yet. I
agree.
I still think it's really foreign to a lot of people. Oh, hockey and sneakers? What the hell is that?
Right.
So people don't really know. So there's just not enough awareness out there. It's not like the Northeast where you have tens.
You go to your local pond and you could throw a game up,
Yeah. So I think for like the greater Seattle area, it's still a relatively unknown concept. And then same thing in lots of areas of South Florida. It's just the concept of hockey and sneakers for adults or kids is relatively unknown. So I think that's the only thing you're really dealing with.
You know what's crazy? Like, I could even think back to when I was in elementary school and living in Connecticut. And I remember like my favorite part of gym was, hey guys, we're going to play floor hockey, right? And we have those plastic flimsy red and blue sticks. And that was fun. And I know Jace now, even in 6th grade and going through elementary school, they still do that, right? So it is a thing as part of the scholastic side of things at school. But when it comes to, I'm trying to remember when Jace was like, I want to play floor hockey or roller hockey. And it started with getting, the rollerblades and everything else. But man, it went from like nothing that I even knew he was somewhat interested in to like he's pumped up, like, and it boggles my mind that this is not a bigger thing than what it could be.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you have to be the voice to get the word out there and to be able to grow it. It's a great sport that's not only good for your health and physicality, but it's just you're outside where you are. I mean, you're in the outdoors too.
Yeah. Your physical health, mental health. The game of hockey will teach you so many lessons. So, yeah, you're right. It's just the sport will teach you so much. It taught me a lot, even playing in my sneakers for 25 years, competing at a high level and learning how to lose, learning how to win. I'll
tell you, when the kids lose, I never see so many helmets and tears in my life. And of course, I mean, this is like peewee level,
Yeah.
and the passion, but it does teach them so much. It teaches them the discipline, and I think that's a big thing too.
It teaches you that, comparable to life, that things aren't always going to go your way. You're going to lose games. You're going to lose tough games. I've lost championships in overtime, traveling on the road, that were actually soul crushing. And when I was younger, I didn't know how to handle it either. I would take the stick and crack it over my knee and have tantrums and break it over the boards. And now you can't do it because these sticks are like $200.
Right.
So you really can't do that anymore. A parent would get pretty pissed off if their kid took a stick and hammered it over the boards because he was frustrated because he had a bad shift.
So what's your so you're doing good things, and if you guys haven't, you can follow Sal on Facebook and Instagram. How can they find you?
Yeah, they can find me actually at Emerald City Floorball on both Facebook and Instagram. So I have a Facebook business page, and then I have a page on Instagram.
And I always see the pictures with the kids. They're always happy and excited. So with your program, how is it ran? Is it ran after school, weekends, camps?
So basically, it is, for the most part right now, it's an after-school enrichment program.
Okay.
So I will go into a school after, like I said, like directly after the bell rings, and I'll do a class roughly from 3:30 to 4:30, like a 1-hour class. Kids actually have to sign up for it. So I work in conjunction with the schools, directly with the schools, mostly with the PTA boards. And
Okay.
so we organize the class, we set up the registration and all that. We do a little bit of marketing. I do a free PE class to market the class to the kids.
Oh, cool.
And so, I'll go in for like one day and
Like while they're in school.
yeah, during an actual normal school day, I'll actually go in there and do one free PE class. And what we'll do is the class will already be set up. So we'll get the kids flyers to take home in their backpacks with the QR code. Mom, Dad, this was incredible. I wanted to play. Scan the QR code, boom, they sign up.
Now, do they play actual games, or is it kind of like scrimmage, learning, teaching, and then maybe that's the next level?
Well, I believe the thing that kids want to do most and have is play. And so what I do is I teach them skills. I spend the first half of the class doing skill development, whether it's passing, shooting, stick handling. I'll make it a little fun. I'll mix it up. I'll do some relay races. I'll do some target shooting. And then usually the last 25 minutes of the class, I'll break them up into 2 teams and
Scrimmage.
we'll just scrimmage.
They love that.
They love it.
At the end of Jason's, they're always about the scrimmage, and it's like that's all they're waiting for, as opposed to the drills. But you need the drills and do the practice to get better. So when you do scrimmage, et cetera, that it's, they're developing at the same time. Right. So what's your vision with this, let's just say, over the next 5 years?
We've gotten to the point to where I really believe I have a model that's scalable. I really do. I want to give kids a place to go to after these classes. So one of the things I run into right now is they do these incredible classes, right? But when the session is over, when the 6 or 8 week session is over, they have nowhere to go, right? They have nowhere else to let that energy burn. So I have a partner now, and we're starting our first ever kids street hockey league.
Sweet.
Called Cascade Street Hockey. This is a program that is in conjunction with the National Hockey League, and their NHL Street program that they're rolling out all across the country. And then it is also supported by the Seattle Kraken Hockey Club. So we're starting the first ever street hockey league that's going to start somewhere in 2024. Target is April or May. If you ever started a league, it's a ton of work. So we're in a
Well, if you're starting any business, it's a ton of work.
It really is. It really is. So we're doing all the unfun stuff right now, like insurance and figuring out registration portals, getting websites set up, finding places to play, which is a big challenge in the Northwest, finding space that is consistent. So yeah, I see this sport growing at exponential levels. And if I could grow a program where I'm in schools and more parks and recreation or boys and girls clubs or YMCAs, and roll out programs where boys and girls of all age, regardless of experience, age, race, background, financial status, what have you, and have them start playing this game, this wonderful game, and then take those skills and translate them into a league, I think you'll see the sport grow
Nationwide.
Nationwide, I really do.
Yeah, I mean, and let's be honest, doing this in Florida, which I think is growing, and if the kids could do it in Florida, they could do it anywhere in this country, because Florida has obviously got the worst weather for outdoor sports,
right?
I think, and that's why probably most of the stadiums are indoors, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's great, and I think for the kids, I mean, they need that. I think sports kept my ass straight, through growing up and hanging out with the right people versus the bad people. Mm-hmm. And I think doing something like this is really just powerful and instills that, into them and teaches them also, the respect and discipline and everything else that they need.
Yeah. And I also just recently started working with ice hockey kids. So, while most of the kids I work with are boys and girls with little to no hockey playing experience, I started, to push into the ice hockey community, which is a really great skill developer, because the reality is these kids can only be on the ice for so long. There's only so much ice available to practice, to play, and what have you not. So they have so much time when they're not on the ice to burn off some more energy.
So they could transition into floorball.
Sure, they can transition to floorball, ball hockey, which is, basically the same thing, and develop their skills while they're off the ice and play at a highly competitive level. And I've done some classes, and watching the ice hockey kids go on it is really, really cool, really special. And it helps them. I had a group telling me 2 weeks ago rather, that I had them go at it for a good 90 minutes, and they said to me after the class, they said, we felt like we came together better as a team, and we bonded together better as a team because they were doing stuff off the ice as opposed to just on.
That's awesome. And that's huge. And I love the vision where it's going, and it's going to take a lot of work to obviously get there. But when it does kick off, I think that's going to be huge. And you're changing people's lives. That's the biggest thing, is you're changing people's lives. And I mean, I'm 38 years old. I still remember my little league coaches. Mm-hmm. I still remember them in Newtown, Connecticut, and they're still around. That's a small town area, but they taught us so much to have fun. And obviously you're going to get your ups and downs when you lose games and stuff like that. But I think that's great that you're doing, and you got a plan in place to grow it. What would you say your biggest obstacle has been, growing this? Like, what do you think your biggest obstacle has been, and maybe has set you back, but you're overcoming it? What do you think that would be?
One, finding space to play. There's only so much space to play in the Pacific Northwest. Weather is not really conducive to playing outdoors for a good 7-8 months out of the year. So
you needed like an indoor type situation.
Yeah, I constantly fight for gym space, to rent gym space, and I'm dealing with that right now with the league as we speak, just trying to find a place there where I can do consistent 10 weeks. But tying into that is that since the sport is so unknown still and foreign to a lot of families and boys and girls, I'm dealing with competition from other sports. So mom and dad, the kid loves the sport, but he's already rolled in basketball. So when basketball season ends, then they'll play, Same thing with soccer. One thing about the Pacific Northwest that a lot of people don't know is that soccer was uncommon 25 years ago, and then the Seattle Sounders came out there, which you wouldn't think would be a hotbed in the Northwest, but soccer is massive over there.
It's like the NFL.
Yeah, and they were just granted games for the next World Cup in Seattle at Lumen Field where the Seahawks play. So
Wow.
So there's so many soccer leagues out there now, and there's a I can plug them. It's all cool. They have a company called Little Kickers where they have kids playing soccer at a really early age, transform them into a more advanced level, and then they go and play in leagues. And that's kind of similar what I see, a similar model where I can get boys and girls starting off with the skill development, going to a little more advanced program, and then hopping into a league and playing competitively.
So do you think the reason why you're not getting gym space is because they have basketball and all the other different things going on?
Yes. Yeah. There's no hockey rinks for kids to play on, and
Anywhere, really?
really anywhere. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing, even ice hockey, we don't have a whole lot of rinks.
I bet you the
yet.
state of Florida probably has less than 10 rinks where you could go to, right?
Well, when I used to live in South Florida, I ran the South Florida Inline Hockey League in Western Florida, and there was 3 rinks there alone at the.
Well, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, I mean at the YMCA, and that back then was tied in with the Florida Panthers, and so with the YMCA. But there are definitely more rinks here than there is there.
Gotcha.
Because obviously the Lightning have been here since '93, Panthers since '94, so hockey's grown so much over the last 30 years. So there's more access to it here in South Florida than there is in Seattle at the current moment.
I bet you if the the NHL, if the NHL backs this, and you know how the NFL does have a program with the kids and they get to meet the players and stuff like that, I think it will grow exponentially. I think it will.
1,000.
Even if it's just a little taste,
Yeah, because when the kids do the class, they absolutely love it. They want more. They tell mom and dad they want more. When I do a class in a free PE class in a gym, they literally take that flyer home and
Mommy, Daddy, look at you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing a program in Linwood right now, and did a free PE class. We would only do one class. We sold out the class in 24 hours. So we actually had to open up a second class, which is almost near the full capacity as well. So when you strike the iron while it's hot, if you will, and you have something set up in place for them to go to, then they want more. Mm-hmm. And that's what I want to do with the league. So once the kids finish a incredible 6-8 week class at a school, Parks and Rec, hey, here's a league now for you guys to play on. And hopefully we can get a rink out there for them because, like you said, there's 1 million basketball courts. There's 1 million soccer fields, football fields.
I feel like hockey's the only thing.
Skate parks. And there's so much money out there and so many big businesses out there. There's no excuse not to have one, not to have 2, not to have 3 out there as community initiatives.
And that's awesome. Sal, you have a great story. I know it's just kind of getting started. I mean, just like any other business, it takes time to grow it. And I know this is more than just a business for you. This is your passion. You can see it all over. You have your hockey stick right here, and and I think it's a really great thing. And just keep it going. And just like anything else, you're gonna have setbacks, but you know what? Yeah, that's just a learning opportunity.
Yeah, I just want to give back the childhood that I was afforded on Long Island because I had an incredible childhood playing hockey, and I made a ton of friends over the years, people that I'm still friends with to this very day. So if I can give that to kids in the Northwest and maybe someday in South Florida and beyond and grow this program and scale it into other states and regions, you'll see tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of happy kids playing this sport. And that would definitely be my post-playing legacy, if you will, that if I can leave something behind, that would be it.
I love it. So if you guys are in the PNW area, right, and I'm sure you might have connections down here or anywhere in the country, Sal's a great person to reach out to. This is his biggest passion, and he's doing a great job with it. And he's a great coach, and I could tell by his skill sets with the hockey stick earlier that he could definitely teach the kids and how to get better and all those different things. So it's awesome. So if somebody wanted to get more information, why don't you share with everybody the different ways they could contact you?
Yeah, basically they can go on either one of my my Facebook page, the Facebook business page. They can send me a direct message there. They can go to my Instagram page, do the same thing there. Or they can basically just contact me at my phone number, which is 425-420-0685. I have parents that text me all the time out of the blue asking me more about
right
program.
Before we did this, you were getting messages.
Yeah, I was getting a few
When
messages.
you coming home, Sal?
Yeah, I have a big event on the 24th when I get back, and that's a drop-in event. But I have people asking me about that event and what have you not. So yeah, so Facebook, Instagram, basically by my phone number. I answer my text messages all the time, and as you know, being successful in your business, I answer my text messages.
Oh yeah. And there might be people out there, honestly, they might be kind of, I know I was when I was asking questions about, roller hockey. I'm like, my son doesn't know anything about hockey except for we play Xbox and he whoops my butt every single time we play, right? So I think that's a great open line of communication. Parents out there, if you have questions or concerns or anything, just reach out to Sal, and you could go look at his page and you could see the different events that they do and stuff like that, and get your kids out there. Being stuck behind the Xbox and stuff like that's, I know it's reality and what world we live in, but even if they could just get some energy and learn some skill sets and have fun while doing it, I think that's a great thing.
Yeah. Once they get out there, Matt, they forget about their laptop. They forget about their iPad. They really do.
Oh, yeah,
I
know.
They instantaneously forget about all that. And they go out there and they play and they kick butt and they have a blast. And parents love it because the kids go home and they're sweating and they're tired.
And they're petered out.
And they're petered out. And mom and dad are like so thrilled that kid is going to go to bed and fall asleep without any problem whatsoever.
Right. Well, so I appreciate you. And again, thank you everybody who has watched and listened. Again, this episode is sponsored by Emerald City Floorball. And I look forward to doing more of these. And then I also talked to Sal before this that we are going to do a follow-up on this in a year from now. Or maybe sooner when you come down on your progress and everything. And definitely reach out. And thank you, everybody. If you haven't, make sure you share this episode with your friends, family, and coworkers. Get the kids out there. Get the kids out there. If they're inspired, whether it's chess, hockey, football, whatever it might be, is get them out there because it's definitely a life-changing experience for everybody. And they'll never forget it. So everybody, thanks for listening to Beyond the Blueprint.
You've been listening to Beyond the Blueprint with Matt. Matt's passion is to talk about breaking the mold and exploring the uncharted territories of mortgages, real estate, faith, marketing, coaching, and so much more. Helping to show you there's always a way forward. Thanks so much for listening to the show. We hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, you can find us on YouTube and Facebook and on all the major podcast channels at Beyond the Blueprint. See you next time.